Welcome back to the Weekend Warrior Show Recap Podcast. I'm Tyler. This week I'm going to be talking about my shows 2 weekends ago at Kilkenny's. I had a double show 2 nights in a row, Davenport, Iowa, and then this last weekend I had 3 shows. So I played a normal at the train station on Thursday night, and then Friday I played down in Springfield and the Trading Post Saloon, and Saturday played at the Eagle Theater in Pontiac. So kind of a lot to talk about. I haven't posted a podcast in a while. I do have one saved that I just haven't posted yet, and I kind of took last week off trying to, with the 3 shows and the holidays coming up. It's actually Christmas Eve is when I'm recording this one. But so a lot to talk about. I'm going to try to keep the Kilkenny's one probably a little shorter than usual just because, I've talked about those shows all the time. But Kilkenny, so we drove Friday and had everything packed. We got kind of early. We were earlier than normal, which was, unusual. And I was just like in a weird headspace ultimately. I was just like very tired. I don't know if I just hadn't been sleeping enough or not enough water or what was going on, but I was pretty much slightly dreading the show a little bit, which is, I shouldn't say I was dreading the show. I was dreading setting up for the show and tearing down and all that, all the extra stuff that comes along with playing shows. And I just all night, it was kind of a slow night. I just could not really get into it that much. I felt like I was having to focus pretty hard on my foot drums and my breath, and didn't really let loose too much. I mean, we did the job, and it wasn't the worst thing ever, obviously. It was still fun, but I just remember after, the second set on the break just being, very winded and, trying to figure out how to come back strong for that last set. But, so then Saturday came around, and Dave decided to come that night, so it was first night, Friday, was Lo and I. Second night was Lo, Dave, and I. And, I kind of had the same feeling going into it. Wasn't really excited about the show necessarily. I mean, sometimes, it's just like a job. But we got there, and it was much busier, and there was much more crowd interaction, and I played a lot of originals, and it was good. It was by the last hour, I kind of felt like, like a superhero or something. I felt like I could do no wrong, and that's kind of the mindset you strive to get into, that flow state where you could just try a song that you haven't played in 4 years, and, it'll probably go pretty good. Now, don't get me wrong, I've been on the other side of that where I think that I'm in that flow state, and I try one of those songs, and it doesn't quite go as good as, if I'm playing by myself or with Dave and Lo, I can kind of control what's going on as far as when to stop and start songs, and how I can arrange them differently. Like if I accidentally did the second verse as the first verse, I can put the first verse in the second verse, or if I do it out of order a little bit, not a big deal unless you're playing with a band that is expecting you to do it a certain way. But anyway, I didn't have to worry about that because it was a busy night. People were getting ready for Christmas. There's a lot of fun, ugly sweaters, and there was a guy dressed completely like Santa Claus. So, and they were all really digging what we were doing and dancing and requesting songs, and and then all of a sudden I'm reminded why I kind of do this, and it was a blast, really. I mean, it was the best show I'd had in a while. And drove back that night and had to load everything up, and Lo ended up and stayed, and she came back the next day. But yeah, it was a good show. And then so fast forward to the Thursday show we had, which this is probably why I didn't record a podcast last week, because usually I do them on Thursday, and I release the other one on the previous one on Thursday before. And with having to work and then, the show pretty much right after, a lot of it was just show prep stuff that I needed to do. So Anyway, at work I got my guitars restrung and all that jazz, and I just didn't have enough time to get to the podcast. But anyway, the show, it was kind of the same thing like as the Friday before. I was just like, I don't know if it was just I hadn't been sleeping as much, or I don't know. It was a simple setup too. All I did was one mic, and in a guitar channel, I used the JBL, which is like the little Bose stack thing. So just one unit. I didn't have to set up a bunch of stuff, but it just didn't feel right all night. The time we had played previously, it was like felt great on almost every song. Now I didn't use my in-ears, and I didn't the time before, but something just felt like way off. I don't know if it was the position of the JBL and because I don't use any monitors in that setup, so I just like could not get comfortable, and I kept having to mess with stuff throughout the night. And we were doing Christmas songs, and we still got a lot of compliments, which makes me happy because even when I feel like I'm doing terrible, I don't think and we made good tips. I think we made better tips at this Thursday night show than we did at the last one, which was like a Saturday afternoon. So yeah, I mean, it was rough. It was a rough show for me, and I was very tired afterwards. But we got through it, and it was fine. And then Friday, I was feeling the exact same way. I was like, gotta just really. Sometimes I just get so jaded with the setup part of it, and it's a lot of stuff for me to do. And if you're doing it every Friday, Saturday, and in this case, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, it was just, I don't know, it just seemed so daunting, and wasn't in the mood really at all. And I just kept trying to shift my, I tried to do all the right thing, take the right supplements, and drink a lot of water, and I was up in my B12. And anyway, so got down there, got everything set up. Dave came and played at this one as well, and Low, obviously, and so it was 3-piece. We were kind of thinking it was going to be more of a show, because we had the Eagle Theater on Saturday night, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But so we were trying to kind of get our originals up to snuff for that, and we played probably over 50% originals, which for that place we don't usually do, because it's more of a cover crowd. But since we were all there and we thought it would be a good idea to get ready for the show the next night, we ended up playing a ton of originals, and it ended up just like the crowd was really, really good. Probably the best crowd we've ever had at the Trading Post, and it was just like a lot of fun. We played a lot, like I said, we played a lot of originals, but we threw in some good covers too, and it must have sounded really good because everybody was just like really into it and giving us compliments and tips, and it was just pretty much a good time all around. I don't think there was anything negative that happened at all in that show, which, when you're doing live sound and stuff, there usually is something that comes up and you have to kind of move on the fly. But we got there early enough, we set up, we played, and we felt like rock stars. So, and it was another one of those, like, I was just in it, I was feeling it, the crowd was feeling it, and it worked out. And, that show was probably the one I was least excited about of the weekend. And, the Eagle Theater was supposed to be like, sometimes I just build up shows like that in my head. Like the Eagle Theater, it's a theater show. We're going to do all originals, mostly originals. And, it's Pontiac, so I was thinking there would be a lot of hometown crowd kind of thing. But anyway, so fast forward to Saturday, and there isn't, well, the last time we played at the Eagle Theater, we played with the same band, the Bashful Youngins, and we got there pretty early, and we played full band, so it was me, Blair, Kev, and Kyle Yap was actually playing drums, and Low was singing backup as well. So we got there, and we were set up super early, and they did sound for us. They offered to have their sound guy work for us as well, and they just showed up like really late, essentially. I mean, it wasn't late enough that we couldn't get started on time or anything like that. It was just like, stressful late, like had to hurry up and plug, because they had to do their whole sound check first and then do our sound check. And they're using the house system, which it has a couple bugs anyway. So this year I was like, okay, I'm just going to do our own sound, and I offered to do theirs as well. But anyway, so I brought like all my gear, essentially, like as much as possible. And we got there at like 2 this year, and we probably set up till about 4:10, 4:20, something like that. And, I spent a lot of time. There's just some random weird stuff. They have this, like, grounding issue there. So, like, all my speakers just had a little bit of a buzz in them. So that was, a little bit annoying. And, I tried to hunt down the buzz for probably a half hour, just plugging into different. Because what happens is there's, like, a power loop, or, like, the lights, something to do with the lighting. Because they have like a bunch of nice stage lights. Some circuit is crossed or something, or there's like a grounding issue, and it causes like a little zzz kind of in the background. And so, but then, after trying to, plug in everything was plugged into one outlet, so that wasn't the problem. Because sometimes if you plug in one thing and then you plug in like a different thing, like you plug in one speaker in one outlet and like the mixer in a different outlet, they're on different circuits, so there's like a weird feedback loop. So most of the time I try to just come out of one outlet just to kind of mitigate that. But we were coming out of one outlet, and I tried every outlet in there, and everyone had the same problem. So I don't really know what, but then I talked to the people at the theater, and they're like, yeah, this is a pretty common, problem we have. It's not your gear or anything like that. So they're like, okay, well, I can kind of refocus. And so we did our sound check. We got everything going, kind of moved everything out of the way for Bashful Youngins. They came in and did their sound check, and they were pretty timely. It wasn't like and it just wouldn't have been enough time if we had to do our complete sound check after their sound check, if that makes sense. Because they came, I would say they were done by maybe 5:30 or 6, between 5:30 and 6. Doors open at 6:30. So, we would have had like maybe 45 minutes, but, we were already all set up. So we just kind of removed everything back to where it was, did another kind of line check on everything, and was ready to go. Then we started around 7:10, and it just wasn't busy. That was the thing one of the things about this show that I was like pretty disappointed. It's like a really cool place. Like, it looks like a legit theater and everything. And, I was hoping that a lot of Pontiac people would come out and kind of support both bands and whatnot, but it just really didn't happen. I think it's the 21st that night, of December, so I think a lot of people had Christmas things that were going on, and I halfway knew that when I booked it, and I booked it a really long time ago, but it's hit or miss with that, because sometimes if everybody's like back home, you're gonna get and they're bored, you're gonna get like an okay crowd, but that wasn't the case this time. And I would have liked there to be more people that were there to see us, definitely. There were probably like 15, 20, maybe 30 people throughout the night, throughout our set. Maybe. I don't know. It's hard for me to gauge, but it was, I don't know. And then the other thing that was, kind of disappointing about that show is, while we were doing it, I felt like we were so tight. Like, I felt like my vocals sounded really good. My guitar playing was good. My foot drums were good. Dave and Lo were good. I could hear it. I was using my in-ears. I just, like, was in it, I was like, oh, this is at least the people here, will maybe have something to talk about when they leave, because we're playing all original songs, and we're kind of, I feel like we're killing them a little bit. But then, at the end of the show, had like 3 or 4 people come up to me, and, well, first nobody said anything, which is always a bad sign, but anyway, and then eventually I found out that the vocals were pretty hard to hear, I guess, for the most of the show. Maybe like the first couple songs you could hear them, but I must have turned my guitar up a little too much at one point in time, and then couldn't make them out. And so that just like, in my head I was like, there's not a lot of people here, but at least we're playing well, and we seem very solid, and that probably sounds really good. If it sounded as good as it did in my headphones, it would have been like, I think it would have blown some people away, but essentially, because it was kind of like, I don't know, I just felt really good playing, like performance-wise, but then so I was like, at least we sound good, for there not being that many people here, and then I found out that we didn't even sound that good, so it was a little, I don't know, it was just like, my whole day was pretty much set around that show, I spent 2.5 hours setting all my speakers up, and getting sound checked and all that stuff, and then played the show, and then I did another sound check for like 40 minutes probably right before we played, and then played for a little while, and then I had to tear down all the equipment, which I ended up doing by myself, which is never fun, especially when I had like way more gear than I normally bring. But anyway, so just didn't really go the way I wanted it to ultimately, but you'll have that. And I build up shows like that in my head way too much. Like I'm like, oh, it's a theater show, and oh, it's in Pontiac, so a lot of Pontiac people will be there, and I just really want to bring the house down, and I don't know why I even bother with thinking like that. I should just try to have fun most of the time. But it was just nice because we had practiced, like we played that show Friday night at the Trading Post, and it turned out to be a great show, and we played all the songs we were going to play at the theater the night before. So, usually we don't do that. We just make up a set list as we go. We play whatever we feel in the moment, but we were actually like prepared for a specific set, which we don't get to do that often. And I mean, I don't think I'd want to do that at every show, just like play the same set, but it just wasn't that exciting. I mean, it was very anticlimactic, I guess. And since I built it up in my head, it was just disappointing. And then now we have that I have a show this coming week at Dr. McKay's, but after that, I have Joe's Pub for New Year's Eve, and then I have a show at the Castle. And the Castle is like the same thing. I'm like, these two shows, the Eagle Theater, the Castle Theater, it's like I built them up in my head to be like these crazy awesome shows, and then I don't know, it just seems like every time I do that I get a little disappointed because it doesn't end. There's no amazing result, even though I think like I build it up in my head to, oh, this is going to be the one that people finally see us, they like get it. But so I'm trying to not like over anticipate the Castle, and it's going to be different because Blair's going to be there, so it's going to be me, Blair, Dave, and Lo, so we're a little bit different set list, and it's only 30 minutes, and I won't have to bring my own sound and stuff, so I think it'll be fine. I don't think it'll be anything. I mean, I think it'll be really busy, definitely, but if the sound's not good, I'm trying not to have to dwell on it too much like I did with the Eagle. But I'm still excited. I think it'll be fun. It'll be fun to be back at the Castle. It's been a long time. When the Castle first started, when they reopened as a music venue, initially we were one of the first bands to do a full set there, and we played with a couple other groups that night, and it was a great show. And then for a while we could set up decent full band shows like a New Year's Eve, or like we did a record release for Design to Shine there, and partially because New Year's Eve ended up and was really good when we did it there. Like, it was kind of a scary start, and then the way it ended was pretty solid. There were a lot of people there to see us, and then our record release was super disappointing. It was like I think it was like September 4th or 5th, and it was like a holiday weekend, and we just didn't have the turnout that we should have had. So we recorded that album for 3 years, And it sounded really good, I think. It was just like with the Eagle Theater, just a little anticlimactic. But and then Rory, the guy that books some stuff there, sometimes he would call me like randomly if he needed an acoustic opener. So I would come and do that, and those were always fun shows because they were just like last minute, like on a Thursday night, and he would pay me like pretty good to just come and do like a 45-minute set or something. That was always like a blast. But they've been booking more national and regional acts, so it's harder to get in there. So that's why I'm kind of excited, because I don't know when the next time we'll be able to get, maybe our next record release, I'll be able to book a show there. I don't know. But we'll see, obviously. But anyway, so that's kind of what we got coming up. Got recording time set in Eclipse coming up, I think the 29th or 30th or something like that. So hopefully we'll finish one of those songs we've been working on in the studio. We recorded with Jeff again. We got the congas recorded, and for the song we're doing with him. And I don't know, we're just keep trucking. That's all you can really do. I wish that I could figure out some way to crack a code that would, have us have a little bit more success. But I mean, I make money. I pay my bills with it, so I can't really complain too hard about anything. It just would be nice to, maybe not have to do the day job, but gotta do what you gotta do. It's like the day job. The shows are like my walking around money, my money for food and all that, and bills and whatnot. And then the show, the job, the day job is like kind of supports the recording and all that stuff. So it's good to have both. It just can be very exhausting sometimes, but I get to do something that's a lot of fun. So I am grateful for that. And I mean, my whole life is pretty much based around music, because I work in a music store and play music. So teach music, fix guitars, all that stuff. So it can be amazing at times. But, if anything can be amazing, it can also kind of be the opposite at times as well. So can't have the crazy ups without the crazy downs. I think that's, pretty much a universal truth. So, but yeah, so that's what we're going to be talking about next week. I'll probably wait till after New Year's Eve and talk about Dr. McKay's New Year's Eve and kind of castle prep stuff. So anyway, anybody who took the time to listen, as always, I appreciate you, and have a good, happy holiday, and we will talk to you soon.